Barbecue Central radio show will air live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Hi, this is Jeff Richards, Columbus, Ohio. You're listening to Barbecue Central. Hi, this is Jeff Richards, Columbus, Ohio. You're listening to Barbecue Central.
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right, good evening and welcome to the really big Barbecue Central show. This is the show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. We originate from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio. It is the barbecue capital of the North Coast. Of course, I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening. Oh, yeah. We got a beauty plan for you, ladies and gentlemen. Should you see fit to get in contact with the show this evening, it's a phone call, it's an email, and this is how you do it.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the bbqcentralshow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter. Coming up in about, let's call it 13 minutes from now, the normal third Tuesday of the month guest. Now, in the fourth Tuesday, you would recall, if you're a fan of the show, if you watched last week, Max Good bumped up from the normal fourth slot to the third. We bumped Steven Reichland back from 3 to 4 per his request, and filling that, as he so eloquently does, Steven Reichland, barbecuebible.com, his website, of course. So we're going to be talking a lot about this. This is a new book. I got it in the mail. I don't know if anybody else got it in the mail. It's Steven Reichland's Barbecue Sauces, Rubs, and Marinades. And as we had touched on previously, it's like version 2.0. So excited to talk to him a little bit more in depth about that. And then, of course, there's a number of topics that we'll be talking with Steven about, namely Father's Day stuff. That's coming up. Mother's Day a couple weeks ago. And now, of course, it is the father's turn. Thank you, Willis. It is the water. Forgot that. It's the father's turn in June, so we'll talk about a handful of decent gift ideas that you might want to be thinking about getting dear old dad, or for yourself if you are a dad, or for yourself because you're dad, and for your dad who was part of the team that had you. And then we'll also maybe talk about Father's Day recipes, some other items as well. Great email from a listener. We missed Steven, I believe it was last month altogether, so it would have been the previous month to that. And it was a write-in after the fact. He had made some reference to PBS. That was right after there was a lot of new policy and procedure being released from the White House, and this question was unique in its timeliness, and I just ran out of time, didn't get a chance to ask Steven, so we'll talk about it when he gets on the show. And then at 9:35, he was on the show, not a year ago, but not too far away from a year ago. He is the head food critic / food writer for Cleveland Scene magazine, which is CLEVE, clevescene.com. Wrote a great article about this show. Doug Trattner will be joining us. We'll be visiting a few different topics with Doug during our time together. We'll get an update on what the Cleveland barbecue scene looks like currently as compared to almost a year ago. And then we'll also talk about a trip that he took down to Texas recently and kind of how that whole scene differs from a lot of other places. I mean, we'll obviously talk a lot about the Cleveland scene and how it differs, but, you know, there's a whole different business model that exists down in Texas and I believe in parts in Oklahoma that really doesn't exist anywhere else. And I'll just tease it like that, and we'll pick it up when we talk with Doug Trattner at 9:35, and then we'll move into the second hour. At 10:14, as promised, he was on a month ago, and we were talking about Dirty Smoke and barbecue across different lands. He is the first full-time barbecue editor in the country, writes for Texas Monthly, tmbbq.com. Daniel Vaughn is in. And, of course, we will be diving headlong into the recently released, literally hours ago, 50 best barbecue joints in Texas, because he's Texas Monthly's guy. And I don't think it's just him. There's a team of people that collaborate on this list. We'll get more into that as well during the segment. But they rank top 10, and then there's 40 other ones. So lots of different nuances and stuff to talk about with Daniel Vaughn when he shows up at 10:14. And then to close the show this evening, one of the hottest things going right now is the SCA, the Steak Cook-Off Association, growing by leaps and bounds. Lots more competition showing up. People getting very excited to spend, in comparison to some other stuff, a small amount of money, not a huge time investment, for a chance to win real cash. And we'll catch up with one of the founders, Brett Galloway, Steak Cook-Off Association. So there you have it. Steven Raichlen coming up next, Doug Trattner after him, Daniel Vaughn at 10:14, and Brett Galloway to close the show. All right, let everybody know that the show is on, live, local, and late breaking. Send them to the Facebook page if you would like to. You could also send them over to OutdoorCookingChannel.com, longtime video syndication partner of this show. Or you can send them to Roku, have them go to the App Store, download the Outdoor Cooking Channel app, and away you go from there. You can also subscribe to this show on iTunes for replays, or if you just can't catch the show as it airs live on Tuesday. And I do still think that there is some kind of a misconception or disconnect here. This is a live show first that is also happening to be recorded at the same time. So when 99% of you get it, the show has already happened. It's Tuesday from 9 p.m. to 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is like a live 2-hour radio show, except it's not on the radio. It is live. It's on the interwebs. So it's actually global. We're globally syndicated here on the Barbecue Central Show. But if you can't make it, you don't miss out. It's being recorded. You subscribe on iTunes or Google Play or any of these other podcast directories, and you can get it and consume it whenever you want, and that's pretty much how most people do it. All right, so if you bothered following this past weekend the Memphis in May cook-off results, I have a feeling you know where I'm about to go with this. And there are those of you who refuse to believe in the Barbecue Central Show karma. Why? I have no idea. Over the 9 years of the show, it has proven itself as legitimate time and time again. However, cynics run amok in society. If you need more proof that this is a real thing and that it always happens, it never doesn't work, look no further than last week's show. If you didn't listen to it, go back and check it out. Chris Lilly does the show at 9:35 a week ago. Shows up at Memphis in May this past weekend, wins the pork shoulder category. Notwithstanding that, Melissa Cookston does a show 10:35, the same show, an hour later. She shows up at Memphis in May with Yazoo's Delta Q, wins the whole hog category. Now, moreover, and to really add the exclamation point here as to why the karma is in fact legitimate, cannot be disputed or discredited, Big Bob Gibson's not only wins the pork shoulder category, not only they win their 5th overall Memphis in May World Grand Championship. Please, oh please tell me that if you were on the fence, that if the Barbecue Central show wasn't really a thing, You have to be a believer at this point. 2 guests show up last week. 2 win their respective categories. 1 wins a record-setting. Keep in mind, a record-setting 5th Memphis in May Grand Championship. What more proof do you need? Multiple category winners. There can only be 1 grand champion. And I'm sure it had to be desperately close between Chris Lilly and Melissa Cookston on overall grand championship too. Probably fractions separated them. So if you don't believe, you can't not believe. That's what I'm saying. You can't not believe it. It's a thing. It's a thing. All right, folks, let me tell you quickly about Cook Shack, manufacturers of smoker ovens for barbecue lovers with any amount of experience. Whether you barbecue in your backyard, on the competition circuit, or in a 5-star dining facility, Cook Shack has the unit that will do the job. And with a full line of barbecue sauces, spices, pellets, and wood chunks, it's the perfect one-stop shop. Cook Shack strives to be your barbecue resource center by offering cooking classes, online recipes, how-to videos, 2 blogs, smoke and grilling 101s, and a video cooking classroom. Check out their website at cookshack.com or find them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest, and Google+. Get advice or share your passion for barbecue on their world-class barbecue forum. They still have one of those. Cook Shack pellet fire smokers are the choice of champions because they were designed by a champion, Ed Fast Eddie Morin. The FEC 100, PG 1000, always customer favorites. You know, the PG 1000 can actually double as a smoker or a grill. Low and slow or hot and fast, the pellet grill line gives you the most for your money. By the way, Cook Shack residential electric smokers, they do make those as well. The #1 smoker in the industry. High quality means high durability and versatility. Anything you can cook in your oven, you can make in a Cook Shack. Passion and dedication drives Cook Shack's manufacturing, with quality always being the top priority. Get the best in barbecue since 1962. Call 800-423-0698. That's 800-423-0698. And visit the website cookshack.com. By the way, I believe that National Restaurant Association meeting was going on in Chicago at the McCormick Center this past weekend, and they had the pellet-fired commercial pizza oven out there. Saw a video on Instagram. That thing was phenomenal. Very impressive. Good job, guys. Now, when's that residential model coming out for all of us? That's what we want. Hey, I want to mention real quick, too, because I did get some pictures of it. Basic Patrick team was in battle this past weekend, and they were able, with the help of Don G, Loyal Central A, Patrick and Don, wearing horse meat t-shirts, snag a RGC. Way to go, Basic Patrick. The new Wendy, Don G, as they were calling him. Way to go, guys. Horse meat karma. Could be a new thing. Could be a new thing. All right, we are back with Steven Raichlen right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Radio Network studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, you love to barbecue, you love to compete, you love to win, do all three with help from Smithfield. Since 1938, Smithfield has been producing high-quality fresh pork products, and now they invite you to get smoking with Smithfield. If you're a competitive barbecuer, you can join the Committed Cooks program. Members who commit to cooking with premium hand-trimmed Smithfield fresh pork receive swag and other great gifts. Commit to cooking with Smithfield. See what's going on in the barbecue scene at this website, smokinwithsmithfield.com. That's smokinwithsmithfield.com. I didn't think I fixed that. All right. All right, let's do this. My first guest this evening is normally the third Tuesday guest. This month he shows up as the fourth Tuesday guest, a 2015 Barbecue Hall of Famer, a TV show host, barbecue class cooking instructor, obviously multiple-time author. Let's go ahead and welcome back good friend of the show, potentially under the weather, but he's muscling through it. Steven Raichlen joining me. Steven, how are you?
Hang on. I'm doing great.
Man, you are like 6 octaves lower than normal, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got a bad cold.
Wow. All right. Well, I appreciate you muscling through here, Steven, and maybe later on we can get some Barry White voiceover work done while we have those golden tones.
Always wanted to have a deep voice.
There you go. We got it tonight, no doubt. So, Steven, let's first talk about this little gem right here. It's barbecue sauces, rubs, and marinades. And as we had kind of touched on a couple different points here over the last handful of months, this isn't the very first time this book has seen the general public. This is, I guess, what you would call 2.0 these days to some degree.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. I came out with that book in the year 2000. Nice little book. But last year, I kind of took a look at it and realized that a lot of it was dated. Certain restaurants had closed, pitmasters had closed, and in addition, that.
Oh dear! In addition, he gone.
Get that free stuff out of here.
Let's try again. 2000. That was 17 years ago, by the way. By the way, some of you were noticing that there was a change in the background music. We'll get into that.
There?
Yeah, I'm here, Steven. How are you?
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Okay, you probably heard none of that. Right?
I heard you say that it was released about 17 years ago, and you were looking to potentially update, and then that was it.
Right. Well, I mean, after 17 years, a book becomes dated. Certain restaurants close. Pitmasters are no longer. And the tastes 17 years ago are different than what we like today. So completely re-updated the book, added 50 new recipes, took out a lot of the older recipes that I just didn't feel were modern, full color photos throughout. And it's really, writing it felt like writing a new book.
So 50 new recipes, but obviously for the ones that, maybe the better question is, like, what percentage of the ones that remain in the book did you go back and tweak for today's flavor profiles or today what's popular kind of thing?
I pretty much tweaked all of them.
Wow.
I mean, whether it was rewriting the head notes or adjusting formulas, but every recipe in that book got tweaked in some way.
So you had mentioned just a couple minutes ago that it was like rewriting the whole book again.
Yeah.
Were there parts of it that you found to be either a lot more exciting than it was the first time you wrote it, or on the other side of the coin, a little bit more arduous than it was the first time you wrote it?
No, actually, just exciting. I mean, there are several new techniques that people have come up. One is the reverse marinade, where you put a marinade on after the meat comes off of the grill rather than before it goes on. This was a technique pioneered by my barbecue buddy, Striss Schlesinger, the guy who wrote Thrill of the Grill. And, his point is true, and that is when you marinate a meat in a marinade at the start, the flavors all become blurred together, and the marinade only goes so deep. But when you put an after marinade on, it really coats every mouthful of food. Similar technique is the board sauce, which you and I have discussed before, pioneered by Adam Perry Lang. So, these are the kinds of recipes that were really interesting for me to write.
So I have not heard of the reverse marinade. Reverse sear, of course, not reverse
Sure.
marinade. There does seem to be like this.
Sometimes it's also called an after marinade.
Okay, so I haven't heard of that either. I mean, so similar idea as far as putting it together and the ingredients, and you're just doing it literally after, or is there some difference in ingredients to make it work the best?
Well, let's take the Thai beef salad, which is sort of a classic, one of my favorite dishes, a classic Raichlen dish. So, old way of making it, you'd make a marinade with fish sauce, lime juice, garlic, cilantro, etc. You'd marinate the meat in that mixture and grill it, and the meat would have some flavor from that marinade. The new way of doing it is you season the meat simply with salt and pepper, grill it, and then slice it, and then the slices go in that after marinade. The meat juices mix with the marinade, the hot meat cooks the marinade a little bit, you get much more flavor on each individual slice. And then the liquid that's left over, the mixture of marinade and meat juices, becomes the dressing for the salad. So in a way, it kind of takes that salad from black and white to Technicolor.
Stephen, are you a fan when you're eating steak, since we're talking about it right now, of a room temperature when you eat it, or would you prefer to have it kind of piping hot as it's coming off the grill?
Well, I like a hot steak, but I don't eat it piping hot off the grill. I always let it rest for a couple of minutes because the meat relaxes and it will be much juicier than if you eat a steak hot off the grill.
Stephen Reichlin joining me here on the show, barbecuebible.com, of course, his website. Stephen, aside from the re-release of this book, does your publisher come to you and say, hey, it's time to revamp a book that's 17 years old? Or are you looking at it on the shelf one day and you're thumbing through it and you're like, hey, now that I'm really looking at this thing, great idea and great reference 17 years ago, but now we should really step it up and give it a facelift?
Well, to give credit where credit is due, it was actually my publisher's idea to redo the book. It was a happy decision. I'm glad they did it. Books and ideas need to be refreshed from time to time.
Typically, especially for you, Stephen, there's like the associated book tour of promotion. Are you going to have a tour that accompanies this?
Well, as a matter of fact, at 7 a.m. tomorrow, I'm flying to New York to do 3 days of book tour in New York. And I just hope my voice will sound better by Thursday when I have my television media tour than it does right now.
So,
but, the show goes on.
Of course. When you are at a book signing, is there something that you have come to expect from your general public? Do people just want an autograph and maybe share an anecdote and maybe get a picture, or are people a little bit more demanding or inquisitive? Like, what kind of people are you seeing out there?
Well, people are incredibly inquisitive, and one thing I've noticed in my 20 years in the business is how much more sophisticated the questions are. People really do possess great knowledge about barbecuing and grilling, and the questions that they ask really make you think. In addition to that, let's see, when I started, of course, there were no cell phones, there were no selfies, anything like that. So, there's a lot of selfie taking now, and that's a new twist on the book tour.
I would assume that this book available in the normal haunts online, Amazon, all the book places and so forth?
Barbecuebible.com, Amazon.com, your local bookstore. And actually, I always try and buy any book from the local bookstore because that's an important business to keep in business.
Are you surprised, Stephen, that real books are still around?
I'm pleased. I guess I'm a little surprised because 2 or 3 years ago, it looked like everything was going to electronic. But, I never adopted the electronic reading habit. I mean, I still like a physical book. And I think more and more people do. Actually, independent bookstores, or those that survived, are doing well, proliferating. And I think the number of percentage of electronic books is actually diminishing in favor of printed books again.
Stephen Reichlin joining me here on the show. Stephen, obviously a guy who is well steeped in the live fire cooking industry, usually lends itself to a guy that has a number of cooking implements, and certainly you're famous for that. One of the things that I had seen, I actually have one myself on my back deck, and I know you have one, is this art flame that really seems to be coming up in popularity, especially on social media and so forth. So I guess from myself, who's used it and cooked on it a number of times, wanted to get your take on it. If you think it's, anything new has that associated price tag. I mean, this thing is kind of a work of art. It's heavy. Certainly there's an accompanying price tag, but kind of holding that off to the side. Give me your high-level rundown and evaluation of the art flame and what you like and maybe what you think could be improved.
I absolutely love the art flame. I have one at home. We used it on Project Smoke 3, which, by the way, starts airing next week in time for Memorial Day on your local PBS station. For those of your listeners who don't know what it is, imagine a big circle of steel that's a plancha, and in the center of that, there's a grill. It's a wood-burning grill. So you get the advantages of both cooking on a plancha, which is great for fragile fish, lets you do things like eggs, which you can't do on a grill, and then you've got a wood-burning grill. So what I like to do in the art flame is if I'm cooking a delicate fish, I'll start it on the plancha. Okay, plancha is a fancy word for griddle. I'll start it on the griddle section. Once it's firm, I'll move it over to the wood burning grill section to infuse it with wood smoke. You know, it's funny. I've been in this business a long time, and for the invention of a totally new grill with a totally new technology, that doesn't happen very often. But the Art Flame does it. Another point I'd like to make about it: the big ones are expensive. They have recently come out with an insert for a Weber kettle grill that gives you the same plancha merging into wood burning grill in the center. So, and I think that's very reasonably priced, and it's a very cool attachment.
When you are starting a fire in the Art Flame, do you have a method that you that seems to work best for you?
I do. I light a chimney full of charcoal. I dump the charcoal in the firebox, and then I put the wood on top of it. All
right, easy enough. And then you just add a stick here or there to kind of maintain whatever temperatures you're looking for, and then scoot the coals around.
Absolutely. Well, you don't really even need to scoot the coals around, because the way that firebox works is that the heat is conducted throughout the firebox.
All right, Stephen Reichlin joining me here on the show. Stephen, coincidentally, there seems to be a running Texas theme through the balance of the show here for whatever reason, and I wanted to get your take on this since I kind of realized that before we got on air. You've spent a lot of time in all of the barbecue places, not only in this country, but around the world. Texas has seen an increasing amount of popularity here over the last, let's say, 5 or 6 years, certainly known as a barbecue mecca, no doubt about it, over its time, but it really seems to have gained a lot of popularity here recently. So my question to you is this: someone who's been down there, you visited the best places all over the country and Texas, is there more hype than really is deserved for Texas barbecue, or can you not heap enough praise on what's happening down there right now?
Well, Texas is definitely one of the major regions of barbecue in the U.S. Am I going to say Texas is better than Kansas City and the surrounding areas? No, of course not. Texas is primarily known for beef. I think what's remarkable about Texas, it's the real deal. All of the pits burn wood. They're big pits. They're burning logs. Interesting, burning oak for the most part, not mesquite, contrary to popular opinion. Some of the best brisket in the world comes out of Texas. I'm thinking of Aaron Franklin or John Lewis or Pecan Lodge. So Texas is undeniably an important place. It's maybe the most pure manifestation of barbecue. But one region you might look at that certainly doesn't figure among the classical canon is Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn has New York in general has some amazing barbecue.
Really?
So, yeah, absolutely. Like Hometown Barbecue in Red Hook, or Brisket Town, or Mighty Quinn's in Manhattan. I mean, there's some fabulous barbecue in the New York area, too.
Stephen, one of the things I like to talk to you about, especially when we're in this time of the season, is kind of those beginner tips and things to refresh somebody that might just be finding the show or just might be getting into live fire cooking. And you had a great post on your blog not too long ago, and it was called Tips from Barbecue Boot Camp. And I was wondering if you could kind of hit a few of those to get people up to speed.
Well, I think the most important thing is to learn to control your fire, not have you control it. And for all too many of us, when we start, we sort of light the grill, we throw the food on, and hope and pray somehow that it will cook without burning. It's very important to know about zoned fires. When you're working with charcoal, you have your charcoal kind of tiered to one side. So you've got a hot zone for searing, a medium zone for cooking. Super important, a safety zone, at least 25 or 30% of your grill fire free. So you've got a safe place to move the food if it starts to burn. Same thing with a gas grill, good grill hygiene, that's really important. Start with a hot grill grate, clean it either with a stiff wire brush or wooden scraper, and oil it with either a folded paper towel dipped in oil or half onion dipped in oil and drawn across the bars of the grate. That's really important. Use an instant read meat thermometer to check for doneness. That's super important for large cuts of meat. I think you can still wing it. You can still use the poke test on steaks and such. What else is important? If you want to add a smoke flavor, using wood, using hardwood chunks or hardwood chips. I'm of the soak the chip school if I'm looking for a long, slow smoke barbecue style. But if I want a kind of a lighter wood flavor like you would get in Mediterranean or South American wood grilling, I put the wood unsoaked right on the fire.
Stephen, would it shock you if I told you that I was doing a news report for a different podcast, somebody else, and 13.3% of Americans use thermometers in order to gauge doneness when it comes to like hamburgers and things like this? Can you believe that it is that low? The majority of people are guessing or feeling.
Well, I guess I'm not surprised, but
It's scary,
I
think.
It is a little scary, but I would urge people, it's a good idea to do that.
Stephen, let me ask you a question here. I wanted to make sure I have enough time for this, and if we have some left over, I'll get into some other topics here. But we missed last month, but the month before that, there was a lot of policy and stuff being handed out through the White House. And one of the things was in reference to PBS. And John from Boise, Idaho, wrote in and said, I'd be curious to know if Stephen Reichlin is concerned about the president's threat to stop funding PBS. And then he goes on to say he knows it's political, but it was also topical then. I think it's also topical now, and you're obviously on PBS, so I was kind of wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Greg, I am concerned about so much that's coming out of the White House. If you think of what makes a country great and what helps a country grow, the three most important things are education, healthcare, public health, science, a healthy environment. And all of these seem to be on the attack list from the White House. I don't understand why. You can be sure that all of our competitors, China is putting an emphasis on education. China's not cutting funding to public television. The amount of money in question is so laughable. It's a rounding error in the Pentagon budget. I think that thanks to certain parts of the media, people think that public television is sort of 10 or 12% of the American budget. You know what it is? It's 0.001%. It's infinitesimal. The Pentagon, believe me, spends more on paper clips every year. So am I appalled? Yes. Am I nervous? In a funny way, I'm not, because you know what? I do believe that there's goodness in the hearts of Americans, and I do believe that most people recognize the importance of public television, not only my show, but shows for kids, Big Bird, and I don't think that Americans will let public television fall by the wayside.
Stephen Reichlin.
There you go. So I probably just alienated half of your listeners, but...
Well, hey, I would much rather have a guest that has an opinion instead of easily skirting the topic and not giving a point of view. So certainly I appreciate that if nobody else does, and I know a lot of people do. Stephen Reichlin joins me the third Tuesday of every month, although this is the fourth. We will get it all squared up here next month. And as always, Stephen, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you. Great talking to you.
You
Bye-bye.
got it. There he is, Stephen Reichlin. Might I say muscling through the cold to do that interview.
All guests on the Barbecue Central show appear via the Smithfield Hotline. Yummy.
And as I said, not afraid to give an opinion on public TV because, and I did kind of forget about that. I was going back through outlines that I keep, and I'm like, hey, look at that. That was a great question from 2 months ago. Because, again, last month. Of course, we missed him. So there you go. Let me go back through. John Dawson. Excuse me. John Dawson weighing in. Remps, isn't an after marinade called a glaze or finishing sauce? Sounds like a distinction without a difference. Oh, good question. Maybe I will ask him that next month when we get in there. We'll see. We'll see. All right, folks. Chops Power Injector Systems. That's right. The NBBQA 2015, 2016, 2017. 3-time Tool of the Year. Backyard cooks to the catering, restaurant chefs. A power injector is right for you. 3 different sizes. First, the number one seller is the half-gallon Chops Power Injector System. Is designed for the competition guy or gal, or to pump up the backyard warrior. So easy to use, right? Clean it, fill it, pump it, away you go. If you have just one brisket or pork shoulder to do, you don't need to fill it all the way up. Just put in what you need. It will use it all. It comes with 14-gauge needles, 2 replacement plastic needle adapters, 3 plug screws, and a needle protector. Then you have the 1-gallon Chops Power Injector System, designed for catering and bigger jobs. It holds double the amount of the injection that the half-gallon holds. That's why they call it the 1-gallon. Some use it in competitions, like when you're doing the Memphis in May whole hog, or maybe you're doing 10 shoulders to find that perfect one. This one comes with all of the same stuff that the half-gallon unit comes with, $120, plus you pay shipping anywhere. The newest one is the Chops Full Power Injector System. It's the electric, commercial, and competition Big Daddy. It's not a holding tank, but a 3.5-foot pickup tube that you can put in any size container, from a few ounces to a 55-gallon drum. It was designed for Chef Rob at the Best Barbecue Restaurant in Kansas City. He said time and time again that with the Chops Full Power Injector System, his briskets are better than ever. It comes with metal needle adapters, 14-gauge needles, 3-inch 12-gauge needles, 2-inch 11.5-gauge needles, 3 plug screws, a needle protector, $325 plus shipping. A number of the top pit masters in the world are using Chops Power Injector Systems every day to make their barbecue better than the rest. Here's the thing. We live in a foodie world. You got to have flavor in every bite. This is how you do it, and do it fast. So you visit this website and then rake the rewards. Barbecue Kansas City, BARBEQUE. BARBEQUE, barbecuekansascity.com. That's barbecuekansascity.com, and get your hands on the 3-time NBBQA Tool of the Year. Not me, the Chops Power Injector System. All right, we're back with Doug Trattner right after this. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Ready to get on the air? Call 216-220-0966. Now, let's get back to the LeBron James of barbecue talk. Greg Rempe.
Yeah, speaking of LeBron James, how's that working out? Anybody got a score on that? Hey, folks, this portion of the Barbecue Central Show being brought to you by Green Mountain Grills, manufacturers of some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today. If you're looking for a big cooker to house a lot of food, they got one for you. If you're looking for a medium-sized cooker, they got one for you as well. Also, small to take on those trips or getting ready for tailgate season, whatever the case may be, all you have to do is head on over to greenmountaingrills.com. That's greenmountaingrills.com. I love my Green Mountain Grill. You could love your Green Mountain Grill as well. All right, folks, my next guest is with Cleveland Seed Magazine. He also has helped write a number of best-selling books with his pal, and a guest I would love to have on this show, Michael Symon. He is actually in the process of kind of penning one with him right now, although that's in the distance. And part of that process is learning about barbecue, talking about barbecue, and soaking up all that fatty brisket goodness for books. So without any further ado, let's race over to the hotline. Oh, shit, I just pushed the wrong button. This is what happens when you're a one-man show. Race over to the hotline. And welcome back, Doug Trattner, to the show. Doug, how are you, buddy? Look at me. Yeah, sorry. I still had you on pause, everybody. I hear you. You there?
No, I'm just kidding. Here I am.
Okay. All right, well, you got me. I was like, oh, boy, what did I do now? So here's Doug, and as you would recall, it was probably not necessarily a year ago, but almost a year ago. Doug was live in studio. He had done just a fabulous piece on the Barbecue Central show, which he had found only 9 years after the show had actually launched, but that's all right. We talked extensively about the state of Cleveland barbecue back then. And, you know, almost a year later, I'm wondering what your thoughts are of where the Cleveland barbecue scene is now, and maybe how it looks here even over the next 6-7 months.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason why I never found you, it took me so long to find you, was the fact that we really didn't have much of a barbecue scene going on here. I'll admit that I wasn't that deep into it, because I had been to all the places Cleveland has had, forever and ever. And,
Yep.
Not to denigrate those places. They're wonderful places. They offer great food and great service, and they're uniquely Cleveland spots. It's just that they'd been around so long, and that's kind of, the rough part of a job like mine, where it's you come in and it's like, what's next, what's new, what's tomorrow, what's next month, and what's next year. It's not so much the places that have been doing it for 40 years, although of course I do go back and check out the classics. But even since we talked about a year, 14, 15 months ago, so much has happened. So much was happening at that time. Obviously, it's night and day from what's going on today in Cleveland to what was, even here 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
We're in the middle of the country. It's the same thing that happens with most trends. It takes a little while to get here to us. The same thing that's, happened across the country over the past decade is happening in Cleveland now. Barbecue, as you know, I don't need to tell you, is one of the hottest things going across the country, not just here, not just in Texas, not just in New York, but everywhere. And, Cleveland is finally catching up. We have young chefs who had fallen in love with barbecue probably 5-10 years ago, have been studying it, doing it in their garage, their backyard, and finally, getting to the point where they're opening restaurants, and we're all benefiting from that.
Do you think when you have a fad or a craze or a trend get to different areas of the country where they're not normally considered to be meccas, so we'll say Cleveland is one of those areas for barbecue. Yeah. To me, it seems like there's still few that really seem to pump out the high quality stuff, and you see a lot of entrants in, and maybe they never really get to open, or they fade rather quickly. Do you find that that's kind of happening with the barbecue scene up here?
Yeah, and it's troublesome because it goes both ways, right? So not only are we seeing operators that are coming out now who maybe shouldn't yet at this point open a place, but the dining public also doesn't really get barbecue, as say folks, from historically barbecue regions, whether it's the Carolinas or it's Texas or it's Casey, you name it. The folks here grew up on things that were very different from the things that people are doing today. So, they still expect their ribs, to fall, the meat to fall off the bone. They expect, things to be covered in sauce. I'm going to get beat up for saying that, people really just don't get it. But a lot of people don't get it because I didn't get it, until I started really traveling the country and tasting the world's best barbecue. I didn't get it. And there's no reason they should get it if they haven't done the same thing, because we didn't grow up eating that kind of food. So we really don't know what, incredible beef brisket is supposed to be like, or pork ribs, or pulled pork, or chopped pork, or whole hog. These are the things that they're wonderful. And it's a fun thing to learn, right? So it goes both ways. Yeah.
No, it's wonderful to learn. For sure.
Yeah, it's a fun, it beats studying for the bar exam, right? Traveling around eating barbecue. But like I said, there's a learning curve. There is with every cuisine, whether it's Korean barbecue or ramen or fried chicken or anything. The first one into the market has a lot of, heavy lifting to do to kind of push the consumer along with them.
Doug Trattner joining me here on the show. Clevescene.com is where you can find some of his writings in the food, or is it Eat? Is that what the menu tab is? Eat.
Eat.
You can check out Doug. You ran down to Texas for a work-related assignment, if you will, and I'm wondering, from somebody who has seen that renaissance that's transpired up here in Cleveland over the last year or so, and then you get down into a place like Texas that has that steep tradition and the majesty and the mystique and all of the adjectives that I could throw out if I could think of all of them. What do you think are like the biggest things that are happening down in Texas right now and that have happened over the history that make it kind of that mecca?
Well, before we get to that, I'll tell you one of the best and brightest takeaways I got from going to Austin, where, as they open barbecue joints every week, it seems. And people here in Cleveland say, oh my gosh, we have Mabel's, we have Proper Pig, we have barbecue, Woodstock, rib sticks, we got Smoke and Q's, about to open. We got an Ohio City. so people say to me, "Oh my God, are we? We've got to be saturated with barbecue, right?" And you go to a place like Austin, and you say, "Oh my God, we are not even close. Not even close to the number and the per capita." And so, I'm not saying quality. I'm saying there is a lot of room. As they say, there's always room for a good whatever that next word is, whether it's beer or barbecue or pizza, whatever. There's always room for quality, and Cleveland has a lot of room to grow in the barbecue scene. That's the biggest takeaway I got from going out there. People are standing in line all morning. I don't know if these people have jobs. I don't know if I'm looking at tourists, but you'll walk by La Barbecue or Franklin's or you name it, and people are standing in line at 9 a.m. to get some brisket, hopefully by 11. So it's interesting to see. I walked around. I stayed in a really funky part of town, East Austin, and you walk by all those places all day long, and there's people lining up for barbecue. It's amazing. It's hard to find a real restaurant in Austin. They're all trailers where you kind of walk up and get your food and go sit down. But it's lovely to kind of experiment, going around the country to try different things. And Austin was it was an eye opener for sure. I mean, I got to eat at Black's Barbecue in Lockhart, Texas, where if you're calling Texas the barbecue capital of the world, you call Central Texas the barbecue capital of Texas. You call Lockhart, the capital of Central Texas. So to go to a place like Black's that has such an incredible history. I mean, we're talking about 1932, doing it the same way for generations. It was really just eye-opening, and to be able to spend some time with a family like the Blacks, and to be able to kind of walk on the other side of the counter and see how they do things and see how they've done things, and see the passion and the family has, and the quality of barbecue. It was just really an excellent experience. I can't wait to go back to Austin. I ate at Black's in Lockhart and Austin and San Marcos. I tried all three different ones because I was spending some time with that family. So I didn't get to eat. I also didn't have the time to wait in line, but I didn't get to eat at Franklin's or La Barbecue or all the other great ones. I want to go back and do that. But what a fun city. And the craft beer scene is great there too.
Do you think being able to learn about a story like the Blacks, there's you name it, there's probably 100 people that have a similar story or have a similar tradition down there in Texas. Do you find that getting behind the counter, seeing what they're doing, seeing that it's the same thing as it had passed generation to generation, makes the quality of the food as you're eating it seem a little bit more better? Did I say more better? A little bit better?
I'll let it pass.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, and it also kind of, I don't know, it kind of, pulling the curtain away on certain things is not always a good thing, right? You don't want to go to your favorite shot and beer place in the light of day, because you'll see things, you'll never wipe from your memory. And a lot of restaurants, it's the same thing. You don't want to go back there and see how they do things. But to go to places like Black's and those places, and heck, the Franklin's and La Barbecue, you can kind of peek around the corner pretty easily and see how they're doing things. They've got nothing to hide. These, you don't hide a massive, offset smoker somewhere, and it's not like a microwave, right? There's stacks of wood, there's smoke, there's people. So you get to see the process. You get to see that there are no shortcuts. There's no way to do shortcuts with this stuff. So getting to see the process and the people who have done it all the time is I think kind of, it validates, the cuisine. It lets you know there's really no secrets. It's just hard work. It's experience. It's generations of experience. It's generations of knowledge, passed down. And it's fun to watch. And the amount of time and effort it takes to you walk up to a counter after waiting in line, you get your sandwich. It's an amazing experience for sure. But to see what goes into it is just another few layers, and it gives you respect for all of the folks who do it, wherever they are in the country, whatever they're cooking. It was eye-opening, to say the least.
You sound like you are ready to go back down at the first opportunity. No doubt about it. You're pumping me up, for crying out loud.
Oh, heck yeah. It always bums me out to leave a place knowing that, you can only do so much. And I'm of the feeling that I would rather spend more time in a place than run all over town trying to, hit a zillion places. I want to go there and experience that place enough so that I don't feel like I need to go back there the next time, unless, of course, I choose to. But, to be able to kind of spend some time in a city doing a few things that you've picked and researched is the way I like to travel.
Doug Tratner joining me here on the show. Doug, with a couple minutes that we have left, I like to believe that people are more and more seeking out Cleveland as a destination to hit for vacation, or instead of just blasting right through it at highway speed, they might get off and spend a handful of hours out here. Nobody knows better than you the trendy places, the cool places, the spots you need to hit if you come here, and it's not like the tourist trap like Geno's Steaks, although I fell for that when I was in Philly a month or two ago. And it was good, by the way. I mean, sometimes the tourist traps are actually good.
Well, they're busy for a reason. They're tourist traps for a reason when they get started. But at the end of the day, it's like barbecue, right? In Austin or wherever it is, you can go to a different place and get barbecue that is probably just as good without waiting in line. I'm sure it's the same with cheesesteaks. You go a block off the main drag, you're going to eat cheesesteaks, or pork sandwiches that are just as good without the line.
Right. So talk to me about places you would want to hit in Cleveland if you're going to be making the trip up here for whatever reason.
Yeah, I always say when people ask me, and of course I get this question all the time, where should I eat? And I say, who are you going with? Is it grandma, or is it your hip friends from Portland? What part of town you going to be in? How much money you want to spend? But that said, I think Banter is one of the funnest new places to open in the past couple of years. It's super unique. It's like you do feel like you're in Toronto or a different city. You walk in, it's a bottle shop, so that means you can go to the coolers filled with bottles of wine and bottles of beer and kind of shop retail style, bring them back to your table and enjoy them. But they also have great beer on tap, great wine by the glass, and they do sausages and poutine. It's a very limited menu. They do a few things, do it right. Poutine, as we know, French fries, gravy, cheese curds. They also sell those cheese curds deep fried, best snack in town. Wow. So that's a fun place in Detroit Shoreway, and that's a great neighborhood. One of the kind of up and coming neighborhoods of Cleveland, if you will. If people haven't been back to Cleveland for a while, haven't been to that neighborhood, it's a great place to kind of see what's going on over there on the near west side of Cleveland. A little closer to home, also near west side, Ohio City. Obviously a great place for craft beer. Ton of places to kind of hop around the street and try at least 5 or 6 different beers from different places. But when it's time to eat, I say go to Black Pig. It's one of those he's one of the best chefs in town. Mike Nowak is, and doesn't get a lot of. He gets credit. He doesn't. It's not a buzzy place all the time. We're talking about just a sweet little spot in Ohio City, and we're obviously named Black Pig. We're talking about a pork-driven kind of bistro menu, elegant, smaller plates, really refined service, but not too formal, not too stuffy. Killer place. And one of my all-time favorite places, right around the corner from me, I'm in Cleveland Heights, over at Shaker Square, a place called Edwin's. And Edwin's is one of the most unique restaurants in the country in that they train ex-cons to work in fine dining. So they are taking people who, might not have a job, getting out, and they teach them a skill, front of the house, back of the house. It also happens to be one of the best restaurants in Cleveland, which is, a lot of these training programs in other cities tend to be less ambitious in their fare. We're talking about fine French food and a really nice atmosphere. Things like, escargot, frog legs, rabbit pie, duck confit, and pressed duck. A medieval dish, if there ever was one. Carved table side off the carcass of the duck. You take the whole duck, you put it in a press, you squeeze it until all the juices run out, and then you make a lovely sauce with it. So Edwin's is high on my list. And, of course, you cannot end a meal at Edwin's without cheese. They have a glorious cheese cart that comes to you tableside. Load up on all of it.
Doug Tratner can be read at clevescene.com. He's my guy here locally. Doug, always appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on, man.
Have a great night. Go Cavs.
All right, go Cavs. They're really going to need to get it going right about now. They're down by 10 at half, I believe, is the last thing I saw. That's Doug Tratner from Cleveland Scene Magazine, clevescene.com. All right. Let me try and make up some time here. Folks, let me talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop shop for anyone interested in barbecue, featuring a comprehensive selection of American-made grills, spices, sauces, accessories, even a kit that gives you everything you need to make a world-class smoker out of a 55-gallon drum. Big Papa's made a name for itself by making an award-winning line of championship rubs, and they've won almost every major barbecue competition, period. They've also banded together with fellow California-based rub company Simply Marvelous to form what has now become known as the West Coast Offense. Defying conventional wisdom, these two California-based rub makers have cornered the market on competitive barbecue. and begun to redefine the flavor profiles that cooks from across the country have begun to aim for. They've even created two of their own unique competitions, King of the Smoker, which brings the best of the best in barbecue in a head-to-head back-to-basics competition. This is unique in the fact that you can't use any devices such as pellet cookers or pit minders, just charcoal wood in your wit to win one of the most high-stakes competitions around. And the other is the Guinea Pig, a cost-controlled event that helps bring in newcomers to the competitive barbecue world. It also features prize distribution all the way down to 10th place in each category, and that helps provide incentive to get new competitors into the world of barbecue. On top of all of that, Big Papa's created their own unique brand ambassador program called the BPS Elite Team, featuring 15 of the best competition teams in the country, working together to promote camaraderie, competition barbecue, and to benefit children's charities across the U.S. Keep in mind, Big Papa Smokers has been able to do all this with only 6 years of being in the business, turning the competition barbecue world on its head, creating their own unique competitions, becoming a staple of a nationwide restaurant chain, and benefiting children's charities across the U.S. Just the beginning for Big Papa Smokers, and again, the website, bigpapasmokers.com. That's bigpapasmokers.com. All right, we are back to wrap up the first hour, coming back and pointing to the second hour. Lots of continued Texas talk in the second hour. That was Doug Tratner, clevescene.com, CLEVE, clevescene.com, and we're back right after this. Stick around.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by CookinPellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit CookinPellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also visit Amazon.com to purchase as well. Don't forget that Cookin' Pellets does have their very own app. You can download that and be alerted to great shipping prices and so forth. CookinPellets.com. Check them out. All right, thanks again to Doug Tratner for coming on. Email from Andy Rue. Would serving horse meat in a non-KCBS open meat be ethical? Andrew, no.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Andrew, you can not serve horse meat.
Andrew, you are not the
Yeah. Remember, while I'm pressing to bring about the conversation of horse meat as a option with the other meats available, it is currently 100% illegal to serve right here in these United States. Let me make that clear. 100% illegal. I would suggest never, ever serving horse meat at a KCBS competition in the open meat section. Is it ethical? That is a completely different conversation that you're going to have to answer on your own once horse meat becomes legal to consume. Is it ethical? Who's to say? I'm not here to say yes or no. I just want it to be an option, or at least I want to have a discussion for an option. That's what I'm talking about. All right. You heard it here first. Well, I'm getting another Andrew, I have to believe that maybe that was a trick question. Andrew, you were not being serious.
Andrew, you are not the
Me, maybe you are. I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of people that probably don't have the first-hand knowledge. Let me backtrack and be completely contradictory. Andrew, if you can find horse meat, who am I to tell you what to do?
Get that big stuff out of here.
Answer the ethical question on your own. Who am I to tell? All right, let's wrap up this first hour, and I will see you on the other side. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here from the city of
Cleveland.
We'll be right back.
Barbecue Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how you doing?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish, what?
He ate 2 feet for wiener.
Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
All right, just like that, we are into the second hour. Hey-o, everybody. Hey-o, everybody. Patrick Paquette weighing in on the instant chat. No comments on my horse meat t-shirt so far, but I've only worn it around barbecue competitions. Might wear it to the Restaurant Depot on Friday. Patrick, why aren't you wearing that bitch every day? What? I wear my horse meat t-shirt at least once a week. At least. Have a good night, Don. Maybe barbecue people are a little bit more understanding when they see a horse meat t-shirt than everybody else. Who knows? Right. I mean, not good night, Don. Good night, Wendy. Inside joke. Don G and Double P ripping off an RGC this past weekend. See what I just did there? Still to come on the show tonight, Daniel Vaughn, the Texas Monthly's barbecue editor, at 10:14 and at 10:35. We'll be talking with Brett Galloway from the Steak Cook-Off Association. The National Pro Barbecue Tour presented by Sam's Club rolled into Marietta, Georgia this past weekend, a local qualifier that sends the top 6 teams to Bartlett, Tennessee, regional final on July 1st. And those teams are in specific order. For grand champion, with a 697.6, Kewin, Stewin, and Bruin. Taking reserve with a 694.8, FYC Barbecue. Third place, Claude's Q. Fourth place, Blind Hog Barbecue. Fifth place, Booty Q. Booty Q! And sixth place, Wicked Q. And as I like to give you, the discrepancy between 1 and 6, roughly 9 points. So by and large, a fairly close 1 through 6, although about 3 points separated 1 and 2. So congratulations to those top 6 moving on to the Bartlett, Tennessee regional final on July 1st. The next event at the National Pro Barbecue Tour will be taking place in 2 weeks' time in Laurel, Maryland. So we're off this coming weekend for Memorial Day. They pick up the following week after that. Where did I do with this? As I continue to give you updates on Horse Meat 2017, because that's what this show was all about. I was forwarded this a couple weeks ago. I'm just getting to it now because I had a lot of other horse important stuff to talk about. Not that one horse thing is more important than the next, but I do have to rate them and then disseminate them to the Centralites. This is, if you can believe this, folks, if you can believe it, I'm going to bring it to you live, local, and late break. I will only use his first name. Evan, a Centralite, wrote an English Composition 101 class. Congress lifts horse butchering ban for the good of horses. Folks, a Centralite wrote a term paper on Horse Meat 2017. That's right. And it goes a little something like this. In the November 30th, 2011 article, Abad Santos discusses the decision made by the Obama administration to lift the 5-year-long ban on the practice of butchering horses in the United States that was set in place during the Bush administration. He states that the lift will be beneficial for the U.S. economy as well as the welfare of horses themselves, claiming that the number of animal neglect and abandonment cases would see a huge decrease. I'm 100% behind what this article has to say, aside from the fact that I am a barbecue enthusiast and horse meat is on my bucket list of things to try. Creating jobs, boosting the economy, and proper treatment of animals is something I think we can all get behind. Obviously, the added jobs would be a given with pre-existing facilities calling for extra manpower to keep up with the increase of service, but it would also add business to architects, contractors, plumbers, electricians, and every other trade that goes along in opening up a new commercial building, such as a processing plant. Even once the facility is completed, you have to have people to make sure that things run smoothly, employees on the line, marketing and sales, mechanics to fix and service the machines, even janitorial staff. Hundreds, if not thousands of jobs could be added from the logistics and planning stages of the build to the first load order being filled and ready for delivery. I continue. This is Evan writing his term paper on horse meat. Besides the new jobs from development of new facilities and adding additional staff to pre-existing plants, the lifted ban would help the economy by cutting down of foreign outsourcing. Even with the ban of the practice of horse butchering, horse meat itself was not off limits to have. So what did people do? They shipped their equine cargo out of the country, either to Mexico or Canada. That in itself is self-explanatory. Services were sent to other countries before they were unable to be performed here in the United States. The extended travel jumps right into my final point. The welfare of these animals in question, for those who are able to afford to send their animals to a foreign country for processing, are sending animals on long trips in less than ideal travel conditions, overcrowding in trailers to get as many transported in one trip as possible, exposure to extreme heat and cold, lack of food and water. All these issues come to mind when it comes to transport. Let's just say you're going to ship your animal from Lexington, Kentucky to a processing plant in Alberta, Canada. Nonstop, that's 36 hours. However, you must account for traffic as well as U.S. DOT regulations, and state over-the-road semi-truck drivers can only drive for so many hours at a time before having to stop to sleep, eat, and refuel. The 36-hour drive could potentially double, if not triple, during that time. There's no guarantee that the animals are being properly fed or given care at all. Not only that, you do have to account for customs, I believe, because you're going from the United States to Canada. Looking more into the welfare of the animal, the above example is assuming that one can afford to send their animal away to processing. If they happen to get sick or injured or not being able to afford for the care of that animal anymore, they have to be unable and they are unable to rehome them. Being euthanized is just as expensive as sending them off to the plant, if not more. That causes owners to abandon and neglect their animals and cause them to suffer long-term due to illness and starvation, as well as a waste of edible meat, which is what I've been saying all along. In conclusion, this is a decision that could possibly have long-term benefits for the United States. As a society, America looks at the consumption of butchering of horses as strange and or weird and exotic, but sometimes those are the solutions that work. Don't be afraid to try something different because you never know what you might like or find success in. Love, Evan. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Evan did earn a B+, I believe, so even way better than Ralphie's Red Ryder BB gun theme, if you will recall. Evan, did you get an A or was it a B? I think it was a B. But he sent me that a couple weeks ago, and I told him, hey, man, I'm all about getting the horse meat updates out. That's a Evan-written essay for a real college class, 101. Barbecue food for you in the instant chat, watching a documentary. The U.S. kills 50,000 wild horses a year. 50,000? What? We do? Also, one more piece of horse meat information. Follow-upping. Not only is it more better, but it's follow-upping. Following up on the horse meat scandal at the Pittsburgh restaurant I reported on last week. The FDA sent an official warning letter to the owner, Justin Severino, of the restaurant named Cure in Pittsburgh. Basically, and I'm paraphrasing, the warning says that if they're caught in violation again, the FDA reserves the right to fine and or administer further punishment as they would see fit. Now, I have reached out to Justin to have him come on the show to talk about what the mindset was, if he knew it was illegal, all this stuff. Because now he has been officially warned. I don't know if that pretty much prohibits him from ever coming on the show to talk about it. Time will tell. But he has refused to come on the show to talk about it. For now. I'll keep trying. Lastly, and I haven't talked about it in weeks, you would recall that for a number of times, I've been talking about Hall of Fame, Barbecue Hall of Fame. I'm asking, does anybody have an update on where the Barbecue Hall of Fame voting tallies are? Does anybody know if there's been decisions made? Does anybody know who the inducting class is going to be for 2017? Am I on that? Am I? I have sent a number of emails, only to not be answered. So we'll have to see what's happening. Updates to come, hopefully, sooner than later. All right, folks, I'm going to talk to you quickly about Butcher Barbecue. By the way, it looks like it's been weeks. Dave is in the house tonight. Welcome, Dave. Hey, if you're like me, you're thinking of the easiest ways and the best ways to step up the barbecue and grilling game. No better or easier way to do that than by adding Butcher Barbecue to your arsenal. Not just some products, all products. We all know Dave is famous for the injections, the beef injection, the pork injection, the bird boosters, all that good stuff. You have great sauce. You have great rubs to choose from. Steak and brisket rub, honey rub. Then you have the chipotle rub, cherry rub, pecan rub, Dave's secret triple X master blend rub, the sweet barbecue sauce. Who doesn't love that? Great all by itself, good as a base as well. No liquid smoke here, folks. Dave took the time and effort to make a great sauce. You will soon discern on your palate that that's exactly what he did. I always say get a box of 6 because it is going to go fast. I have a house full of women. They love the sauce. That should tell you something. When we talked about injection just a few minutes ago, Dave decided, hey, I'm going to take the dumb factor out of it for everybody. I'll make it dumb-proof, stupid-proof, I believe he said on this show. You can get the beef injection and the pork injection pre-made, pre-mixed, all ready to go right in the bottle. All you have to do is shake it, stick your syringe in there, and start injecting away. It's already made, ready to go injection right in the bottle. You don't need to measure. You don't need to do anything water-wise. You don't need to fret about what liquid to put in the powder. None of that. It's already made already. Here we go. Here we go. Head on over to butcherbbq.com. That's butcherbbq.com and stock up right now. Number one. And then as you're getting all of those products, don't forget to check out the grilling oils. One of my favorite products over the last handful of years. Of course, butter flavor is my favorite. It also comes in steakhouse and chipotle flavor. Try all three. You're going to love it. Cleveland just went back on top, everybody. Everybody. Head on over to butcherbbq.com. That's butcherbbq.com. Check out the Stupid Proof products brought to you by Dave Bosk and the good folks over Butcher Barbecue. We're back right after this with Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly. Stick around. Be right back.
The only show giving you a monthly visit from a doctor of barbecue. A man actually named Meathead. The author of a barbecue Bible. Bloggers, reviewers, competitors, and manufacturers by the dozens. It's the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
This segment of the show being brought to you by Unknown Smoker Accessories, purveyors of made in the USA stainless steel barbecue and smoker lid hinges, barbecue accessory hangers, rocket hot chimney grillers, and heavy-duty aluminum foil dispensers. To find products from Unknown Smoker Accessories, keep your gear where it needs to be at arm's length, ready for battle. By the way, you can get the Rocket Hot Chimney Griller over at BigPapaSmokers.com as well. Partnership good, doesn't always have to be about competing. Of course, you can still buy all of the other Unknown Smoker accessories at unknownbbq.com/shop. That's unknownbbq.com/shop. All right, my first guest here in the second hour tonight, the very first barbecue editor for a magazine here in this country. You also see him on this show from time to time. And we have some Texas barbecue to talk about. So let's head to the Smithfield Hotline and welcome back friend of the show and barbecue editor for Texas Monthly Magazine, Daniel Vaughn, joining me here on the show. Daniel, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing just great. How about you?
Absolutely fabulous, Daniel. Always appreciate the time you're giving to the show here. And, let's kind of jump into it headlong. We had teased it last month when we were talking about the top 50 is going to get released here very shortly, and you were going to come on the show and we were going to discuss it a little bit. So, a few days ago or so, the newly revised top 50 barbecue joints in Texas is released. And I guess before we get into the foray of that, who's right, who's wrong, my place got left off, my place made it, talk to me about the history of the top 50 list. How is it determined, and how often is it updated?
Well, first off, of course I'm right.
Of course. I mean, I was never questioning you. I was talking about those other schmucks.
No. Of course, this is all subjective stuff. But yeah, the list itself, the top 50 list goes back 20 years. So 97 was the first Texas Monthly Top 50. We've updated it about every 4 to 5 years since then. I think we're going to keep it every 4 years nowadays. Because, essentially it really is the Olympics of barbecue. So 4 years just seems appropriate. Also these days, with just how often these places open and how many new great places we're getting, every 4 years seems to be a bit of a stretch too. But, getting together this list takes a huge amount of our staff, and it takes us about 6 months to produce it. So if we did it every year, we'd spend half the year doing a top 50 barbecue list. So we've got to spread it out a little more. And I think that builds the anticipation. And when we released it early yesterday morning, the response we've gotten certainly shows that there has been some anticipation.
For the other contributors to this, obviously you said you're not going to be able to do it all of yourself. Is this something that people have to go lottery for? I would imagine that this would have to be like one of the best things to have would be a contributor to the 50 top barbecue joints in Texas list.
Well, they just have to swear that they will hit all of the places that they need to in their region. So yeah, we bring in about 15 or so folks from our staff. We have a couple of freelancers as well. We all met on Halloween morning. Jimmy Ho was one of the guys he's a blogger here in Texas. He met up with us to go over all the rules and requirements for searching for the top 50. He dressed as Flo in the conference room on Halloween morning. Everybody was kind of wondering what Flo was doing there. But anyway, so we all gathered in the conference room, divvied up our different regions, and I talked very specifically about what we're looking for in the top 50. Most everybody who was in that room had been part of the 2013 team as well. So they all come back to us with their scores of the places they've visited all over the state. Of course, the list of the places they're going to is partially built on my research, also built on what our readers have nominated, and also just whatever places you pass by and that look like they might be promising. So all that list comes into Pat Sharp, who's our food editor, and myself. We go over that list. We got it down to 70 initially. And then we basically just start knocking places off the list based on return visits, and also to, for the first time ever, we put together a top 10. So that was even more of an undertaking.
What is a criteria that these guys and gals are going out with when they're hitting their assigned locations in their region?
Well, what we try to do at the very offset is, at the very onset of this, of our kind of travels, is we do bring everybody in together, and we bring in some of the greatest barbecue in Austin and some not so great barbecue in Austin, and we share it around the room. Like this, we brought in Franklin Barbecue. This is one of the best places in Texas. Here's what it tastes like. This is what we're looking for: brisket that is of this quality, ribs that are nearing this quality, and also brought in a few other places that are kind of middle of the road, and a couple that I just know I don't really like and wouldn't support on the top 50, to give people an idea of what the lower end looks like as well.
And then they're off to do whatever they need to get done and return their results to you.
Yeah, that's right. And, they're looking at, they're of course looking at how good the brisket is and the ribs and sausage and all that good stuff, looking for any unique items on the menu, looking for the side items, the desserts, how they stack up, and atmosphere, really taking it all in. But, of course, the meat is really what it comes down to.
When I was looking at that top 10 list that you linked over to me a couple hours ago, what I couldn't help not noticing is right at the front, the golden age of barbecue. What does that mean to you, the golden age of barbecue?
Well, I think right now we've got more people across the country, really across the world, who understand what barbecue is all about, what it should be, and really appreciate it. Really appreciate the work that goes into it, and we're seeing that appreciation and that love of barbecue is translated into more and more barbecue places and more great barbecue places. I think the way that we share information these days, on everything from your show to videos to cookbooks that are put out that are and have minute details about different recipes for barbecue. The way that we share that information, I think, really enables more and more places to do it really, really well, and to do it well more quickly after opening up. So I think it really helps, really build a good base of new barbecue joints that are coming in, while also improving some of the ones that have been around a while, who want to make sure they're doing it as well as some of the new folks are too.
All right, we've teased it long enough. Let's go ahead and get into the top 10 of what is the 50 best barbecue joints in Texas. And the last list, 2013, who was sitting atop?
So the last list, we had Franklin Barbecue from Austin, Texas, atop the list. And we, like I said, this list you mentioned has a top 10.
Yep.
Last time around, we picked a number one, and then we just simply picked three others that were had elevated themselves above all the others. So we had essentially a top four grouping, and then the other 46. Here we've got that ranked top 10 and the rest of the 40.
Number one is Snow's Barbecue. Oh my!
That's right.
Franklin toppled. The very foundations of the barbecue world are shaking and shattering below us. What makes Snow's Barbecue number one?
Well, I got a little bit of a heads up that this might be number one. So on Saturday, I stopped in at Snow's Barbecue before the big rush hit. And what makes it special? It just reminds me every time I go back just how special it is that first you get to eat their incredible food, but when you're doing it, you're sitting at a picnic table outside in small town Texas, overlooking the pits where 82-year-old Tootsie Tomanetz is toiling away. She's been cooking barbecue for 50 years and is still going strong. She's an incredible woman, and they just have a great team there. I think the other thing that makes it great is just the diversity in the flavors on their menu. They've got two different styles of cooking in one restaurant. They have an offset smoker for their briskets, get them nice and tender and get that good smoke on them. Most every other cut is done right over direct heat. So they burn down wood down to coals and shovel those coals right under the meat. So you get big, thick pork steaks cut right out of the shoulder that you don't find at a lot of Texas barbecue places. Incredible sausage and half chickens as well. They get that good crispiness from that direct heat. So you put it all together, and it's just an incredible menu.
Second on the list was 4 years ago, number one, Franklin Barbecue. Really, probably the most popular like household name, Franklin Barbecue. Everybody seems to know about it. It's on Jimmy Kimmel like every third Tuesday of the week, and I thought by now it would have died off a little bit, but it doesn't seem like the lines are getting any shorter. Aaron getting into more and more business as it relates to the Franklin brand. It was just announced he's going to be opening a whole new pit line for sale and some of these other things that he's got going on. He's really going strong, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely going strong. He also just wrapped up a food festival that he had hosted in Austin, a 3-day long food festival. So he's got business pretty much everywhere, and the lines are definitely still there. The photo in the magazine is great. Wyatt McSpadden is an incredible photographer, does a lot of Texas barbecue photography, and he was there at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and you can see the first couple of people showing up right at the door, these crazy early birds who are there so they can be first in line. And Franklin Barbecue, we had them number one last time. It's pretty much neck and neck here. Franklin Barbecue, both Pat Sharp and I agreed, really does have the best brisket in the state. If you took brisket solely, it's hard to touch them. I mean, we tried the best of the best barbecue back to back to back for several days all over Central Texas, North Texas, down Houston way, and it just became apparent like that brisket at Franklin really is that special.
Is it the marriage of the way you cook it and the smoke and the temperatures and the quality of the beef that he's using? Is there something that is definitive that you can put your finger on when you're eating all the rest of the best and that one stands out?
It's the buttery flavor of the fat from the beef he's using. I think the subtle smoke flavor coupled with the kind of intense beefiness, also just how tender it is. I was lucky enough, let's see, gosh, we're just talking about Wednesday night. Last Wednesday, I was up in the pit room at Franklin. Braun Hughes is the guy who really watches over most of the briskets at night. And I was with him, and he said, okay, I'm getting ready to check briskets. You want to check them? Well, yeah, of course. So we handled like 40 different briskets, just checking for doneness, just getting an idea of just so I could get an idea of what that touch and feel was like for each one of the briskets to figure out if it was finally to that point where it could be pulled off the smoker. And it was amazing. Of course, the first couple I'm touching, I'm like, yeah, that's done. It's like, no, not yet. Put it back on. So I finally got the hang of it after about 40. I'm sure I forgot all that touch by now, but just the intense care that they take night in, night out to take those briskets off right when they're perfect and no sooner.
Number 3 on the list is Cattleback Barbecue. Not a name that I'm...
Cadillac.
Cadillac. Did I say Cattleback? Sorry, Cadillac Barbecue. And it sounds like a car, but it's actually like, cattle and then ack, A-C-K.
Yeah, they spell it kind of funny. This is a place in Dallas, it's pretty cool because it started off as a catering gig. And then they started selling just limited stuff to go on Fridays only. It got more and more popular. They expanded the spot. And now they're Fridays, every Thursday and Friday, they serve, a huge line of people already. I can't imagine what it's going to look like this Thursday. But, they have an enormous line of people and a huge menu as well. They're always tinkering with new stuff. Todd and Misty David are the owners there. Todd's always toying with new sausages and new cuts. So you might find a homemade bologna or akaushi beef ribs, all kinds of good stuff going on at Cadillac.
4 is Bodacious Barbecue.
Yeah, Bodacious out in Longview. Bodacious Barbecue can have a bit of a bad name because it's part of a chain. There's a Bodacious chain, but each one is individually owned and operated out in East Texas. And the original Bodacious is owned by Roland Lindsay, And Roland's son-in-law came in to reopen it after it had been closed for a couple of years. Jordan Jackson came in from Stanley's Barbecue, actually, to reopen Bodacious, and that was a couple of years ago, and it has just gotten better and better ever since. The guy knows how to cook. He knows how to knows his sausage making as well. He started making this brisket burnt end boudin. If you're familiar with usually a rice and pork sausage out of Louisiana, he's doing it with brisket burnt ends and rice. It's just fantastic.
Fifth on the list, and I guess what would be kind of widely considered an iconic place is Louis Miller's Barbecue.
That's right. The cathedral of Texas barbecue right here. Even with all these places that we've mentioned, if there's one place I would send you to kind of take in the whole of what Texas barbecue is all about, going to a small town, going into this hallowed, delicious smelling building, wide open, tall ceilings, smoke covered. Everything's got that patina from the smoke, the brick pit in the back, the peppery beef ribs and brisket, great staff, great food. I mean, it really does have it all.
Sixth on the list is Tejas Chocolate Craftery, or is it Texas?
We call that Tejas down here.
Tejas,
of
course.
No, I get it. I know. I'm from Ohio too, man. It took me a while, but Tejas Chocolate Craftery. I know it sounds weird, like it's a chocolate shop. It's a legit bean-to-bar chocolate shop. They get the beans, they roast them, they grind them, and they make chocolate bars, which are amazing. I'm a big fan of craft chocolate, and they do an incredible job. But they weren't making enough money just selling chocolate, so they needed something else. They wanted to add a lunch menu, and they decided to start cooking barbecue. That was about a year and a half ago. And evidently they knew a little bit about cooking barbecue because it's only gotten better ever since. And they've got this mole barbecue sauce, which they incorporate their chocolate into. Of course, they've got some chocolate desserts. They do pastrami beef ribs as well, which are amazing. It's just all kinds of good stuff at the Chocolate Craftery.
In Spring, Texas, and seventh on the list is Corkscrew Barbecue.
Yeah, between 6 and 7, we got Tomball to Spring. I mean, we're talking about a 30-minute drive, so it doesn't take long at all to get between these two. Corkscrew started off as a food truck, and then they moved into old downtown Spring and opened up their own spot. It does have a long line, but it is the fastest moving line. I mean, they'll have a line wrapped all the way outside and around their porch, and you're only going to be in it for about 40 minutes. So they know how to move people through the line and crank out that great barbecue.
Eighth on the list, and again, an Austin-based company. I've actually seen this place on TV a couple times. I think it's Micklethwaite Craft Meats. Yes,
that's right. A food truck on the list here, straight out of Austin. Tom Micklethwaite opened this place up, and in a food truck. I think he maybe thought that eventually he'd move to a brick and mortar location, but the food truck seems to have suited him just right. They do they do it all here, as far as they, of course, hand make all the barbecue, but the breads and desserts they also make. The pickles, the barbecue sauce is all homemade. All the sides, they have this lemon slaw, which is like just the perfect complement for their giant beef ribs.
Ninth on the list is it Evie Mae's Pit Barbecue?
That's right, yeah, up in Wolforth, Texas. So this place is generally lumped in with Lubbock. It's right outside of Lubbock, home of Texas Tech. So there were a few people whose hearts skipped a beat as they were looking down the list, because we organized our list online by city. So they're like, whoa, Evie Mae's from Lubbock didn't make it. But no, they're down at the bottom in Wolforth, if you're looking alphabetically. But number 9 on the list here, they started off as a food truck just recently. Well, not so recently. It's been about a year and a half now. Moved into a brand new big building. They've got they're another place with the full package. All the great homemade sides, great barbecue, enormous beef ribs, nice sticky sweet pork ribs as well, and all the desserts are made by Mallory Robbins, who's Arnis Robbins is the pitmaster there. His wife Mallory makes all the desserts, about 7 or 8 different ones depending on the day you come in, and they're all gluten free, but you'd never know any of it. Arnis Robbins has celiac, so she's got to keep it all gluten free, and so yeah, certainly anybody who's looking for honest to goodness gluten free barbecue experience can go to Evie Mae's.
Rounding out the top 10, and I do have confirmation from my embedded Texas correspondent, Doug Scheiding of Row Cookers, that the Truth Barbecue is indeed the truth.
Yes, it is. Leonard Botello IV, young pitmaster, kind of came out of nowhere, opened up in a tiny building that used to be a barbecue joint, a not-so-great barbecue joint. He's opened up this place and has just really lit Brenham, Texas on fire with this barbecue. It's an area that hasn't really been known for its great barbecue for a while, but man, they sure line up for this spot. They've got great. I mean, everything's great here. He makes his own sausage. The brisket's great, whether it's the fatty or the lean stuff. All those sides are great, and then his mom makes these enormous, 2-foot tall layer cakes, and usually 5 different flavors depending on the day you come in. They were just monstrous slices of cake.
The remainder can be found over at tmbbq.com, of course. Daniel, will you start the process now of going out and trying the new places that you hear, and you kind of revisit them over the next 4 years as you start to refresh the 50 list?
Yeah, I gotta say, I am so looking forward to some new barbecue road trips to hit some new spots I've never been to before. So much of the last few months has been checking and rechecking on places that are on this list, trying to solidify their spot or their location on the list. So I am really looking forward to going out and trying some new stuff. I've just actually just got in a tip from, of course, somebody who is mad that their favorite barbecue joint's not on the list, spot that I'd never heard of. So I added it to the map, and I'm going to be checking that place out along with a bunch of others here over the next few months.
Do you have any idea how many barbecue restaurants are in Texas?
Well, there's probably about 2,000 or so.
Wow.
The count, the last count that I saw said that there were around 1,900 non-chain locations.
Wow.
But by non-chain, they meant places with less than 10 locations. So essentially, I think that's really just Dickey's. So it's like 1,900 barbecue joints plus every Dickey's location.
Will the top 50 see an appreciable receipt difference this week, you think?
Say that again?
Will the top 50 barbecue restaurants see an appreciable receipt bump this week?
Yes, I would assume so. We've already seen plenty of joyful posts from barbecue joint owners about the long lines at their places already today, along with those same photos from the customer standpoint that are a little less joyous. But yes, the word is out. A lot of these places are going to be seeing business like they've never seen before.
He is the Texas Monthly Barbecue Editor. TMBBQ.com is the website, and he is Daniel Vaughn. Daniel, really appreciate the time tonight and talking about the top 10 explicitly, of course, but releasing the top 50 here. And we'll do it again soon, man. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
You got it. There he is. Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly's barbecue editor, the very first full-time barbecue editor, by the way.
All guests on the Barbecue Central show appear via the Smithfield Hotline. Yummy.
I hate it when Skype decides that it wants to ask me if I would like to update my Skype in the middle of the show. I'm never going to want to do that. Ever. Doug, I don't know if you missed it or not, but it does take into account more than the food, although that is probably the major consideration. But there is atmosphere and decor and all that stuff. All right, Brett Galloway coming up out of the break. Let me talk to you quickly about the longest-running sponsor of the show, the Barbecue Guru. If you've been thinking about automatic pit temperature control devices for your cookers, stop here. This is the company that started it all. They created this technology. Why would you buy it from anybody else? If you're not familiar with how they work, I don't get into the minutia here, but imagine a product that allows you to set your pit temperature, and one set keeps it at that temperature all the way through the cook. Sound too good to be true? It's not. It's real life. You can take advantage of this technology today because maybe you're a busy working professional, or perhaps you're constantly on the run with kids doing errands. You just don't have the time to sit around and tend pit temperatures. The Guru allows you to throw on a pork butt, a brisket, a couple slabs of ribs, or all of that, depending on how big your cooker is. And you are off to do whatever it is you need to get done. And the Barbecue Guru maintains that pit temperature you set it at. you're in the market for a cooker, look no further than the Shotgun. It's kind of an updated Onyx oven right now, and you know it's going to work seamlessly with the Barbecue Guru temperature control devices. Do yourself a favor. Head on over to bbqguru.com and check out their products. If you have any questions about what to order, call them directly. Don't guess, please. Don't guess. 800-288-GURU. They will make sure you're outfitted with exactly what you need to get you up and running right out of the box. 800-288-GURU or the website bbqguru.com. All right, Brett Galloway, SCA Talk coming up. Stick around.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
The biggest name in pork, bringing you great opportunities this barbecue season. Get smoking with Smithfield and their Committed Cooks program. Learn more by visiting Smokin', S-M-O-K-I-N, smokinwithsmithfield.com. That's smokinwithsmithfield.com. I cooked a couple of their tenderloins this past weekend. Man, suck you lunch. I love tenderloins, man. I think if you cook a pork tenderloin just right, 135, 140 maybe, the mouthfeel is just like filet mignon, but I think more flavor. All right, have you been hearing more and more about Steak Cook-Off Association events? Of course, not really expensive, growing in popularity to say the least. And by the way, who doesn't love a good steak? Let's race to the hotline and welcome back, friend of the show, Brett Galloway. Brett, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, Greg. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
You got it. I always appreciate you making time for the show, Brett. I guess let's get started here. If we could kind of recap, it might be a little bit of a tall task, of course. We're almost 2 quarters of the way through the calendar year. And for whatever reason, food sport seems to kind of run that calendar year in length. So as we look back kind of across that first quarter and a half, quarter and 3 quarters, talk to me about some of the events that you've had so far and kind of where those overall rankings are as we sit here on May 23rd.
All right. Well, the first quarter, we actually had our first event in the UK, which was awesome. We've been to Vancouver. We did did our first event ever in Australia. That went well. We've actually got 6 more events in the works. We've already booked another one. So Australia looks like it's going to be they love steak. We love them. And then we did one in Belgium. So we've actually been in 4 countries plus the U.S. in the first quarter of the year, which is awesome.
How long has SCA been a deal?
We're 3 years old.
Wow. Did you think 3 years ago you'd be in Belgium, Australia, Canada, and the UK?
I had no idea. No, we just, we started this and it's kind of like we just lit a match and then it just started a fire. It's been a blast and nobody's having more fun than us. It's hard to believe sometimes, but we're having a good time. Cookers are having fun.
How many events are you going to be looking at putting on this year? I mean, certainly you could probably add as it makes sense, but where's the forecast at right now?
This year we're looking at 7 countries. We're in 22 states and about 125 events, 120, 125.
3 years ago, what was that first year? How many events?
Well, there was 9 in the country. Our first before we started, and then our first year was 19, went to 47, and then it went to 87 last year.
Wow. So, I mean, kind of doubling in size almost.
It is. It's been a learning experience. It's almost like every year I have to recreate systems in the office, and that's a good problem. I'll take that problem. Is
SCA your full-time job, Brett?
It is my full-time job, yeah. I am proud to say that. It's living the dream, as I say.
Talking about refining processes and, all this other, I think conceptually there's a lot of associations that seem like there would be a lot of fun and perhaps people don't really consider what's happening in the administration side and the rules side and the processes side. What have you, like, what are some of the biggest changes that you've made over the past 3 years, or, things you used to do that you're like, oh, I can't believe we ever did that. I would never do that again.
Well, as far as the administrative side, when we started, I had an Excel spreadsheet for memberships, and quickly outgrew that. And I had a basic website, and we had to move to one that managed our database, our memberships, handled our entries. I couldn't, when we started, we just had no idea that it would grow to what it has. So it was very interesting there. And then as far as the teams, I think the biggest thing is every rule that's taken place in the last couple of years are because the cookers have requested it. Our steak selection used to draw a poker chip, and you'd pick 2 steaks. Well, if you picked first, you thought you had a mental advantage. If you picked last, you're like, man, I'm picking last. I lost the lottery. But I saw those guys win too. So the cookers wanted to go to pick one, get back in line, and pick their second steak in the same order. Well, then this year they said, we want to do a reverse snake. We're going to pick 1 through, if there's 30 teams, 1 through 30, and then 30 through 1. And it doesn't affect things other than the cookers like it. And if we can make them happy with a simple rule change like that, we'll do it every time.
Is there something at the end of the year where members are sent like a questionnaire, or maybe there's some type of a conference or meeting and they're allowed to voice what they would like to see changed, and then it's all taken under advisement? How do rule changes come to pass at SCA?
Actually, we keep a list in the office there. Anytime somebody suggests something, we write it down, and then we solicited comments from the cookers. And then what we did is we put an advisory board, and we picked 6 guys from around the country, and guys that we trust. We know they've been in other organizations to see how things work, because we've never been in leadership roles of other organizations. We're kind of learning as we go, and really put a lot of faith in the guys, and put everything before them and let them vote on it. And, every rule they wanted went through.
When you talk about steak selection at a competition, it's obviously, I guess, the responsibility, or the burden of responsibility is on you guys to come up with almost similarly spec'd steaks, so nobody feels or can sit there and go, oh, well, yours is way bigger than this, or mine's super thin. And that has to be kind of an arduous task all on its own. How are you able to find a beef supplier, or have you partnered with somebody that kind of gets you an SCA steak spec almost?
Well, we've got a standard it's 1.8 inches to 1.25 inches boneless choice or above ribeye. And actually the promoters provide the steaks for the events. We guide them along the way, but rather than go with one sponsor right now, we thought it was more important to keep the money in the community. So if that local promoter wants to support his local grocery store, then he can support the grocery store if he can use them as a sponsorship to help keep money in the community. It's worked out really well. Every now and then we'll have a situation where the steaks aren't exactly to the spec, but the good news is everybody's cooking the same steak.
I got an instant chat message from Alex, who says he loves judging KCBS, but really enjoys judging SCA. It's been a lot of fun. So a little feedback for you as we're doing here on the show. From a cost perspective, we do talk about it each time you're on, but I think it's important as it continues to gain popularity. New people here to this show kind of learn about it. What kind of an investment or an expense does a team have to make to do an SCA event versus some of those barbecue competitions that we know so much about?
I've got a 24-foot barbecue trailer I use for KCBS and IBCA. I also have a Weber in my backyard. I got a PK grill. So if you got a PK grill or a Weber in your yard, you can come compete in an SCA event. So the equipment cost is very, very low. If you have a grill, you can come in. But the $150 is our base price point. At $150, we're going to give you the steaks. Now there's nobody out there cooking a Wagyu ribeye versus just a guy that can afford a select, which doesn't happen. But I mean, we just kind of level the playing field. So for $150, you're going to get in the money. The prize money's concentrated because it's one category rather than 4. So most of our payouts are $1,000 for first place. Mm-hmm. Our championship, $15,000. So it is a little more entry level equipment wise, cost wise, but the caliber of cookers out there, they're tough. We've got some of the best steak cookers in the world. I know there's more out there. We're just waiting for them to come on.
Do you find that over the genesis of the SCA that there has been, you know how people say, yeah, competition barbecue is nothing that I would cook for myself out in the backyard on a weekend if I wasn't competing, you know, because you're trying to get that one bite and you're trying to go over the top with your flavor profiles. The best middle of the road barbecue, as a lot of the most successful pitmasters say. Do you find that trending at all into the steak market or not so much?
No, I think the steaks that are turned in are steaks you would like to eat at home. The only thing I can see different is some of these guys manicure their steaks a little bit, you know, maybe trim them a certain way or something. But other than that, I mean, it's a backyard steak wins this thing. Just a good flavor profile is what it takes.
And you're cooking to medium temperature, correct?
Yes, sir. We cooked a medium, we have a picture that we go by. It's a warm pink center. There's an art to getting that thing to medium. It depends if it's hot outside, it's cold outside, what's the humidity. And you really got all these factors to take in, how long your wok is, how long you let it rest. It's a little more than just throwing a box in a steak nowadays. The bar has been raised.
Brett, let me ask you, the last time that you were on here, one of my questions to you was, you're seeing the growth of SCA. It's a one-day event. It makes sense to me that there could be a partnership between you and an FBA or KCBS where you guys would come in on a Friday, you do a steak cook, and then clear out enough time to get these guys turned around and ready to go for the barbecue side of things. And it seems like it would be a great two-day weekend event. I'm tooling through the KCBS website a couple weeks ago through board notes and so forth, and I see that at least they've either instituted and it's getting ready to rock and roll, or they're at least talking about instituting their own steak cook-off situation that would take place before. It's like my idea in your association. Do you have any thoughts on how that's transpiring, or what do you know about it? What do you think about it?
Well, ironically, we went to them in year one with a proposal. But honestly, we weren't ready for something like that. We were so new and kind of got ahead of ourselves. And that's all right. We did that. It was a good learning lesson. And we've got strategic partnerships with FBA, with MBN, ABA over in Australia. So we've got, and BCA down in Louisiana. So we've got some partners that we actually do events with. And, KCBS does a great job of barbecue. I think we do a great job of steak, and, there's room for everybody in this playground. We're just trying to create more cook-offs, and if they can bring some more steak cookers to the steak cooking world, I am all for it.
Do you think that they're doing that because they see it as kind of I don't know if you would call it a one-stop shop, or, there is an accessibility. People are showing up there for barbecue contest anyway. If they're going to be there the night before, why not try and take a steak cook in-house and keep it all under one roof?
That's possible, yeah. But I think they also see that it's Friday night, and these guys, it gives them something fun to do on Friday nights. Just a great activity. You start a fire on Friday nights, guys gather around the pits. So it complements what they do. The steak cook on Friday is just a different challenge than the slow and low on Saturday. So I think it's a natural fit. About 10% of our events are done with other organizations. The rest are freestanding cook-offs. But, I hope there's no reason for them not to continue, and hopefully it'll build more business for all of us.
What are some of the big steak cook-offs coming up here over the next handful of weeks? And by the way, not that I'm revealing anything, too awesome, but Brett has agreed to be on the show about once a month or so to kind of keep us updated with SCA, because that was kind of a platform that I wanted to do this year. So I appreciate that, Brett. But some of the bigger steak cooks coming up here over the next handful of weeks.
We're going to Japan for the first time. We're
Wow.
going to do a cook-off in Japan. We're moving into Iowa. We're going into South Dakota and Wisconsin all in the next, 3-4 months. So it's exciting to see it grow north. And I think once we experience one, it just really builds. And we're doing a tour with Home Depot and PK Grills. It's been successful so far, and it's kind of a test run. If it goes good, then next year we're hoping to have 20 events with Home Depot and PK Grills.
It's Brett
So
Galloway.
it's really neat. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Then we've got a big one coming up just before a championship in West Memphis, Arkansas. It'll be about 120 teams, and I think they got Quiet Riot and Great White playing at it. Just some old rock 80s bands, so that'll be a blast.
Brett Galloway at I'm sorry, I'm jumping in all over you. Keep going. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just going to say that our big celebration is our SCA World Championship on October, same weekend as Jack, October 28th and 9th, and we'll probably have 130 teams from around the world, and I'm really excited about that one.
Is that Fort Worth?
Yes, sir. Billy Bob's in Fort Worth Stockyards.
All right. That sounds awesome. Brett Galloway, Steak Cook-Off Association, the website if you want to check it out. SteakCookoffs.com. Brett, always appreciate the time, man, and we'll talk to you again next month.
Sounds good. Thanks, buddy.
You got it. There he is. Brett Galloway, Steak Cook-Off Association. Yeah, baby. Let's try and get back on time here. I'm going to talk about the new bumper music here coming up out of the break because I know I'll have at least 30 seconds. Folks, pit barrel cooker, right? We talk about it all the time here on this show. Pulling the trigger on a new cooker could be a little nerve-wracking. I strongly suggest the pit barrel cooker for your consideration. Makes cooking simple and fun. Might be the most unique, versatile, and easy-to-use cooker available on the market today. Imagine a single cooker that turns out great traditional barbecue meats like brisket, pork shoulders, and ribs, while also being able to ramp up and tempt to do those burgers, chicken wings, and hot dogs. Versatility, all thanks to the revolutionary design that goes beyond traditional convection. It's called the hook and hang. It places the food right in the center of the heat, so it's acting like a stationary rotisserie. Not only is the pit barrel a fabulous cooking vessel, it's aesthetically sexy as well. Not only built to withstand heat, but thanks to its porcelain enamel finish, the pit barrel is able to withstand any type of weather. It's also extremely portable. It can fit in the back of most trucks, vans, and SUVs. It's ready to go wherever you are. Of course, barbecue folks love accessories. The pit barrel doesn't disappoint here either, from rubs and the great stainless steel rub shakers to the unique removable ash pan, the pit grips, the turkey hangers, the hinged grill grates, the fully sized charcoal chimney to the cooker, koozies, coffee mugs, full line of accessories that really complete the pit barrel cooking experience. The best part, for $299, the pit barrel comes fully assembled, ready to cook on, and it ships free right to your door. Not only does the cooker ship free, but with so few returns, everything they sell ships for free to lower 48. No promo code, no coupon code needed. Don't take my word for it. The folks over at AmazingRibs.com have given the pit barrel cooker for 4 years in a row their highest rating. That's the Gold Division rating, by the way. Head on over to pitbarrelcooker.com and see what everybody's talking about. Be sure to check out their full collection of short how-to videos, then pick up one or two for yourself. You'll thank me later. If you have any questions, you can contact them through their website or call 502-228-1222. That's 502-228-1222. And yes, they will actually talk to you. Find out what great customer service is all about when you head on over to pitbarrelcooker.com. That's pitbarrelcooker.com. All right, we're back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best Triple X show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
All right, this segment brought to you by the National Pro Barbecue Tour, presented by Sam's Club. 31 cities, $500,000 in cash, eternal bragging rights if you win the whole damn thing. They're off this coming weekend and then back in Bartlett. So if you want more information on the tour, register your team to compete, or check results, you can visit kcbs.us/Sam's Tour. That's kcbs.us/Sam's Tour. All right, I'm not going to be able to get to the music. I'm not going to be able to do it. We got to get out of here ASAFP. All right, all the way back in the first hour, we talked with Stephen Reichland, battling a cold, barbecuebible.com. Then we talked with Doug Tratner, Cleve Scene, CLEVE, clevescene.com. second hour. Daniel Vaughn, tmbbq.com, talking about the just released 50 best barbecue joints in Texas. And then we in depth talked about the top 10. And then finishing the show, Brett Galloway from the Steak Cook-Off Association, steakcookoffs.com. All right, big show already planned up for next week, believe it or not. Believe it. We're going to be in June. In June. Almost. We'll get there. September 11th, 2001. I will never forget until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Remby. Good night now.